Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am excited to welcome back a guest today, Leah Spasova, who I had on before to talk about censorship and sexual health and wellness. Leah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Excited to jump into this topic. We were focused on a kind of sexy topic before. Well, I guess censorship isn't super sexy, but you get what I'm saying.
Mhm.
And we're going to jump into a more relational topic today. Before we start, though, can you give people an overview, if they don't remember, on who you are, what you do, and why you're here today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you said, my name is Leah Spasova. I'm a psychologist specializing in sex and relationships. And I love helping people work through challenges, especially dynamics. This is a favorite topic of mine that really keep them stuck in their relationships. So I would love to talk to you about this favorite topic of mine.
Awesome. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about complementary dynamics and patterns that we find ourselves in over and over again in relationships. And, when I was looking at your interview sheet before, I was torn because I love the censorship topic, but I was like, oh, I relate so much to this topic of being in negative patterns over and over again, and just so you have some context as we dive into this topic. I am going on a learning journey about attachment styles, my own attachment style. I've always assumed that I was anxiously attached. And in past relationships, I've been anxiously attached. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'm starting to realize I'm actually disorganized attached, which is fun in its own way. Um, but I'm really looking in with my therapist to take a look at attraction and the type of people that I've been attracted to in the past. My first boyfriend was very overbearing and controlling. And after that, I kind of sought out men who were um, harder to get, I guess you could say. It just felt like I was reaching a little bit more for them. I really wanted, that attention. That felt safer to me. I am now in a relationship for, by the time this airs, about 2 years with a very securely attached individual. You'd think that, like, once you find a securely attached individual, that all the work would be over,
Mm-mm.
but it's not. If you're not securely attached and you find a securely attached individual, it can be really uncomfortable. And that is something that I am learning right now, is that learning how to be loved truly unconditionally and properly without any issues is hard. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, but I wanted you to have that background so you know where I am coming from in all of this and why I was so jazzed to talk to you about this topic.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing this. It's a really vulnerable thing to share
Yeah, well, I
and
don't know
very
how to do
brave.
anything else. But it's funny how that works, right? So, and one of the questions that I did have is with these complementary patterns, kind of just start off talking about what that is, and how people find themselves in them.
Well, a complementary dynamic, the way that I would describe it is that you have a way of acting, reacting to people in certain situations, and they would have their own way of acting and reacting in the same situations. If you do not have a dynamic that complements, there will be either conflict or a separation in a sense. So the way that I describe it to people, especially my clients, is that if we met on the street and they said hello to me, said, "Hi, Leah," and I said, "Chicken sandwich," they'll be like, "What?" And they have an option, like two options really. One is move on and think, Leah has lost the plot. What a crazy, person to say chicken sandwich to a hello. What? Or the other option is to create kind of conflict and say, yeah, what the fuck? Like, greet me like a normal person. Like, what's going on? Why don't you just say hi? You know, create that conflict so that you kind of like address the fact that I did not complement the dynamic that you're used to, greeting for
Mm-hmm.
greeting. you know? That's why it's so infuriating if you're yelling at someone because you're upset and they're very calm and they do not respond to your desired dynamic for a screaming match, you know?
Right.
Absolutely. So that's the thing. A complementary dynamic is all about responding in the same fashion that the other person is, and that works for you.
So people find themselves in these. So the complementary dynamic is actually what we're striving for, correct?
No. And yes.
Okay. All right. I was like, wait, so I've heard of this. I believe if we're talking about the same thing, I've heard about this in the context of like issue-based relationships. This idea that like sometimes people's issues are a perfect puzzle piece for another person's issues, and they get caught in this dynamic over and over and over again where they just start playing out the same pattern because neither of them have done their individual healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are just perpetuating the pattern over and over and over again. The relationship ends, they don't address the issues, they just go into the next relationship and repeat the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's a good equivalent to complementary dynamics. Naming it issue-based. I wouldn't say that there's always an issue with it in complementary dynamics. We have amazing complementary dynamics when we meet someone on the street that's a friendly face, and it's nice to chat to them for like 5 minutes and move on. That's also a complementary dynamic. So it doesn't have to be around issues or challenges. It's just what is it that it's currently working for these two people, and what needs to happen for this complementary dynamic to be interrupted if need be. So happy couples are in complementary dynamic, right? They take care of each other, they laugh at each other's jokes, they're compatible sexually, yada yada yada. They're in a complementary dynamic. Also, a toxic relationship where one person is manipulative and puts the other one down, and the other one is a people pleaser and wants to do everything to be accepted and loved. They're in a complementary dynamic, except it's not great.
Not a good one. That's my last relationship.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a great, like, we talk about how in therapy, for people who are not in therapy, people, so I hesitate to use this word because I think a lot of like pop psychology and pop therapy is monopolizing words that are, and misusing words. Like I think that narcissist is a word that people have lost the idea of what it actually means. Boundaries, for example, is another one that people are misunderstanding. But there's this idea that people who are very empathetic, that narcissists glob onto them. And that's another idea of a complementary dynamic, right? Because there's this person who is used to doing things this way. They're attracted to this person who, in many ways, their issue is the perfect puzzle piece to their other issue. And they get stuck in this cycle over and over again. So what are some other examples? I just, gave one of people who find themselves in these types of dynamics. What, have you seen in your work? What are some examples?
Okay. One that comes to mind is when people are in a sexless relationship, or that they started the relationship and sex wasn't great even from the start, but they just continued. And then they wonder, like 5, 10, 20 years later, what can we do to fix this? And I'm like, well, first of all, why did you stay? If things were not great from the start and you didn't address it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there are challenges that you face that made it possible for you to stay. For instance, there might have been shame around the topic. You may have decided that sex is not as important as getting together and getting along, and therefore, so what that I don't have satisfying sex life with my partner. They treat me nice, they are kind, and I don't want to be alone, so therefore, freaking hell, just lock them in, have the kids, have the marriage, the whole shebang. And that's the thing. There was something in you that contributed to making those choices, that you didn't address it early on. that you stuck around, even when you did try to address it, the other side may not have been open to discuss, may not have been open to address the issue, did not see the issue as you did. But again, you settled for it. You made the decision that, okay, well, they don't want to talk about it, so we're not gonna.
Yep. And that leads beautifully into, on your interview sheet, there was a quote that I wanted to read, which speaks just to that. It's important to remember. It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but the quote is, "We hold 50% of the responsibility in every relationship we cultivate." Yeah. Why is this so important to keep in mind?
Well, I'll take it even more granular. We are 50% of every dynamic and every interaction that we have. Mm-hmm. And the reason why this is important is because we bear the responsibility for making a choice to be in this dynamic, to be part of this experience or relationship dynamic, whatever it is. We're 50% of it. As I said, if you are refusing a dynamic, then you either create conflict to resolve it, or you move on. These are your options. If you want to settle with this, well, it's no longer going to be a resolution. You're just settling. You are adjusting and you are complementing the dynamic. So it's a hard pill to swallow because people don't like taking responsibility for the most part.
No, they don't.
No. And it's even a harder pill to swallow if I am to say that even in abusive relationships, it's a 50-50 in terms of choice of staying. That said, I need to highlight that if you have had a relationship with an abuser, they did a lot of work to put you down. They invested in you in a shitty way, but they invested in ruining your self-esteem, in ruining your relationships and contacts with other people that could see what's going on and pull you out of it. They worked real hard to put you in that position. But through and through, you are still choosing them every day. You are still staying with them. And that we need to focus on the fact that you're doing it because there is this part of you that is doing it 100% for you. You may be 50% of the relationship dynamic, but every choice you make is 100% for you.
So you're that's staying. A really good point.
Yeah, you're staying because you don't believe in yourself. You're staying because your self-esteem is ruined. You're staying because you don't think that you can reach out to your friends and family and say, I made a mistake, please help me. You are staying still because of you. And even if you're thinking, I don't know, you're in a different type of relationship and they're very dependent and there's a lot of codependency in the relationship and you're people pleasing and you're thinking, oh, I have to be with them, otherwise they'll fall apart, otherwise they're gonna jump off a bridge, otherwise blah blah blah. You're still doing it for you. You're not doing it out of the goodness of your heart. No, you're doing it because you cannot live with the idea that you left them and they jumped off a bridge. You wouldn't be able to live with yourself. That's what I keep saying. Whatever you do it for you 100% of the time. But you're 50% of the dynamic.
That's fascinating and such a tough pill to swallow. I think that this idea that we are responsible and accountable for 100% of our actions is difficult. You know, I've gone through a chapter in my life where I've lost a bunch of people because I was willing to take accountability and I was met with radio silence when I asked for them to take accountability. It's hard to do. It is hard to look at yourself, look at a situation and go, oh yeah, I really, really fucked up there and I need to apologize, or I need to do this, or I need to do this. And I do think it's easier for some people than others. But that's important, knowing that like is a base part of what we're talking about today, that being able to look at things really clearly with empathy for yourself, of course, like in the example that you cited, you know, with somebody being abused. Yes, it's 100% of their choice. But like you said, this person invested in really putting that other person down so that they were at their lowest point. Yeah. So it's acknowledging and having empathy for that while still saying, you're 100% of the choices that you make are for you.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to highlight here, because a lot of people may want to jump on my throat and be like, you're victim blaming. I'm not victim blaming in the sense of you thinking that I'm saying it's the victim's choice to stay and be abused. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is very different. That realistically speaking, the abuser has done their work to put you down. But in the end of the day, if you realize that you have no self-esteem, that your whole world is made to revolve around the abuser, that you are alone and isolated, you need to realize that this is what you need help with in order to leave, in order to build yourself and get the fuck out of there and this person. And there is a horrible statistic, but very true, that abuse victims return to the abuser on average 8 times. So I'm not saying that victims should be blamed for their choices. I'm saying victims need to understand that they need to do healing and to understand themselves, and that's their responsibility.
100%. And everything is more nuanced than we'd like to think that it is, right? Like, and that's like the thing that people don't want to understand is that what we're talking about here is very nuanced.
Yeah.
And it would be easy for a lot of people to make assumptions that you were victim blaming. But if you look into the nuance of the conversation, that's not at all what you're saying.
Yeah. And I've worked with victims of domestic abuse and human trafficking, and I know the journey and the experiences they've had and the mentality that's been instilled in them, the self-esteem, the absolute mental breakdown that they have gone through to get to that point, in their life where they've acknowledged and sought help as well. So from, addiction circles, there is this quote or saying, the gift of desperation. And this is when you hit rock bottom.
Right.
And you realize after stewing in there for a while that the only way is up. But you take that responsibility.
Yeah. And it's, I've thought about this a lot in regards to trauma. I made a TikTok video a while ago about sometimes it's difficult when you've been in a traumatic situation. You get mad because you're like, I didn't put myself here. Like something was done to me, but it is my responsibility, as unfair as it is, for me to fix myself. I'm the only person who can do it. I'm the only person who is capable of doing that healing work. So as much as it sucks that like this traumatic event happened and that it was done to me, and it's unfair that I have to do this work, it's still mine to do.
Can we pause for 5 seconds to close the window? Because I'm going to turn into a nice
okay, sure.
ice lolly. Sorry, and thank you.
No problem. Okay. Yeah, so this idea of you have to fix, even if the traumatic event happened to you, it's your responsibility to fix it. It's kind of where we left off.
Yeah, I remember. The thing is with that, it's so infuriating as well that someone did you damage and then you need to pick yourself up and you need to take care of yourself. It's so infuriating. I've had these kind of interesting chats with people about how some people literally need to come into your life with a warning label.
Oh gosh, yeah, I wish.
Suffering from these emotional traumas and childhood experiences, beware. I may bleed all over you because of my own wounds, and therefore you may develop, anxiety around this. I wish, but it's not a thing that will happen
Alas.
anytime soon. No. But there is not only that sense of how unfair it is, but how impossibly difficult it is to trust people afterwards and to open up. connect again. And yeah, it will be horrible to deal with, but it is part of, I don't know,
being the human experience.
Yeah.
But I think that is really important to acknowledge, like, on this topic, different people come into relationships with their own experiences, their own experience from childhood, their own experience in friendships, their own experience with other romantic partners. And so you have two people here who come together, whether it be a night, a moment, or the rest of your life, whatever it might be. You have these people who come together, and it is our own baggage that impacts how we see the world.
Yeah.
And that's how people can get into these dynamics that are more negative and patterned. And I mean, how much of this would you have to say has to do with like childhood and attachment styles?
Loads.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Loads, because if you're an avoidant, you have certain patterns, and you are only going to engage in dynamics that serve the avoidant and fearful inside of you. So you'd only date people who are maybe equally emotionally unavailable. Maybe you'd not build solid relationships because that's scary and you don't want to lose people. If you're, let's say, disorganized, you would just find yourself completely lost as to like, what is right? What does my system need? What
That's
is my
me.
what is my being okay with? Can I bear being with someone a lot, or this is too much for me and I need my independence? Do I suffer when they leave for like a weekend away and I don't get to see them because now I'm freaking out that I'm gonna be abandoned? Like all these things, and you will engage in those kind of patterns with people that have a complementary dynamic to yours.
Absolutely. And sometimes, I just watched this video about attachment styles and how the avoidant anxious dance can be one of those patterns that you see playing out a lot, because fearful avoidants are frequently attracted to the emotional availability of an anxious person. And the anxious person likes the idea that the avoidant is so confident in themselves, and then they're going to feel taken care of by the avoidant, which goes fine for a while and went fine for me for a while, until I was like, oh, wait, I actually have needs that I need you to meet.
Yeah.
Can you help me out here? And he was like, you're not allowed to have needs. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then he left. Which is kind of the dance that I've found myself involved in my entire life. One of those dynamics that at a certain point you just need to go, okay, this keeps happening. And the common denominator here is me. So let's figure this out. Where does this come from? Which leads to, I mean, that's the first step, is becoming aware of it. But what are some other things that people can do once they've acknowledged that they're in a pattern that doesn't work for them?
Oh, God. Once you acknowledge that...
I'm like, give me a roadmap, please.
Once you acknowledge that things are going in circles, you do need to remember that wherever you go, there you are, right? It doesn't matter whether you change job, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You're going to be the same person until you put the work in. That's why I do not believe in being in a relationship, breaking up, going back together, and things being different. No. Did they go to therapy? No. Did they work through their shit? No? Well, you're just gonna go in circles again. And that's something that a lot of people continue doing. They get together with someone, they break up, get together, break up, together. Like, what changed? Who changed significantly for you to get different results out of this experiment again and again and again, right? And when it comes to one of the things that people don't understand about relationships is that you shouldn't just stop thinking about a relationship after it's ended and just move on. Actually, there's a lot of healing in understanding what went wrong and spending time examining what was your role into how things went, so that you go into the next relationship at a better place with yourself. I've had plenty of clients that have come to me and said, I keep seeing myself dating the same people. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you need to put the work in. And them going through session after session, discovering why they act the way they do, and figuring it out and healing through that journey, so that next time they don't have that same mindset, they don't have these same belief systems, they don't have the same reactivity to things and events. But the roadmap is genuinely like, recognize what's happening, recognize that it's not going to change unless you put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
Find the right professional to work through this. Start taking responsibility and being the chicken sandwich, sayer. Because if you're a people pleaser, you need to start saying chicken sandwich to people's constant needs for you. And you need to be prepared that once you start saying chicken sandwich, the others would not like it. You need to be prepared for the rejection. You need to be prepared for the breakdown in relationships. You need to be prepared for the slips that you would have. Because if your self-esteem depends on being needed and praised, you will have slips. Because you would need that reinforcement. And for as long as you need that reinforcement, you will be sleeping. Right. So you need to also be prepared for the fact that people will bully you or try to bully you into going back to the status quo. Because remember, that worked for them. They were 50% of that dynamic. They were engaged in it. It worked for them.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so difficult about these dynamics, is that people seek out what works for them. I mean, like you said, it's true. We're 50% of the relationship, but we are 100. Everything that we do is 100% ours to own, for, whatever reason that we're doing it. So if somebody has acknowledged that they found themselves in the same relationship over and over and over again, what can we learn? I mean, you said that it's a good thing to not stop. Like the relationship ends, and it's a good thing to not just be like, okay, cool, relationship's over. I'm going to cry about it for a week and then I'm going to move on. That's what my ex-boyfriend did. Whereas I've been sitting here for almost 3 years reflecting on what went wrong, what I want out of a relationship, what responsibility I have to take in the breakdown of these friendships and this relationship. What can we learn from looking back at these relationships? Take the negative experience and kind of put a positive twist on it so that we can move forward in a better position.
Mm-hmm. Hold your thought. Cat on the window again.
Aw. Cute little kitty. All right. Cute cat.
He's being needy all of a sudden. Like, Mommy, I want to go out. Mommy, I want to come back.
It's that cat life.
Yeah, cat mom life, for sure. Okay, to answer your question. One of the things that people find outrageous when I say it, a lot of people, not everybody, of course, is that you should strive to have a relationship after the relationship with that ex, whoever they are. I'm not talking about abusive relationships, be a friend with your abuser. No. Fuck no. Run. Okay, run. But what I'm saying is, there were reasons why you selected this person to be in a relationship with. Maybe they're kind, maybe they're funny, maybe whatever. But you can learn a lot from continuously having conversations with them after the relationship, about the relationship, seeing
I
them
agree.
with new partners as well, how they navigate and so forth. Because you can learn a lot about yourself, about them, the dynamics after the relationship. And that's something that most people do not understand, do not get, how you can be friends with exes. But I'm like, how can you not get it? How do you expect...
You cared about them for a reason, yeah.
Yeah. And how do you expect that one day you would have a partner and children with them and furry babies and a house, and then you would separate and never talk to them again? How do you see this? Is this healthy? Can you do it? Can you not just remember for a second that when you're getting married, having children, especially having children with someone, this is going to be a lifelong bond.
Yeah.
And most relationships nowadays are not lifelong, full stop. 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, maybe. Not lifelong.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy thing at all. I've always preferred to stay closer to exes. They've been less able to do that for whatever reason. Probably because they were avoidant. But so okay, can we get into, you've established the pattern that you have in relationships. You have looked inward and tried to figure out what you can learn from the past relationships, what you can learn from yourself, how to heal yourself. And you've accepted that, you're going to have to learn how to put up boundaries and that people might not like those boundaries. Say that you are like me and you are still doing that work, but you're in a relationship with a new person who is wonderful and everything that you know that you deserve, but you're still having issues trying to accept the love because you're not used to receiving like actual pure love. It shouldn't be hard, but it is for some reason when you're used to those patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've established the pattern, you've worked through the pattern and you're like, all right, I'm ready to, get out there again. And you get out there and it still feels uncomfortable to be in something good for you. What does that say? Does it say that you feel like you don't deserve that love? Does it say that there's more work to be done? Does it say all of the above?
Yeah, basically. It means that you may have done part of the work, but you're not done with the work. Because if you truly embrace that you're worthy, that you know your value, and that you deserve the best, you wouldn't have these questions. You wouldn't struggle with it. It will be easy for you to accept the love and to receive it. A lot of the time I do need to kind of help my clients learn how to receive, because they're not used to receiving. Because receiving for them in the past may have meant a trade, may have been transactional, may have been like, you do this if I do this, I do this if you do this, kind of stuff. It may be difficult to receive because they don't see it themselves, that value or whatever it is. Especially we see it with compliments, people rejecting compliments, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm like, why aren't you allowing yourself to receive this, But not only that, but the fact that by not accepting and receiving, we're taking away something good from the other person as well. And you ask many people and they'll tell you that they prefer giving gifts than receiving gifts. And I'm like, you just basically, by rejecting someone's compliment, you just told them, don't have the joy of gifting me this, Right. I don't want you to have that joy of gifting me a present or a compliment or whatever. So you're taking something away from them.
I feel personally attacked.
You're welcome.
Definitely one of those people who I'm like, I love giving gifts. I love giving. And then when like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I'm uncomfortable receiving gifts. It's very, yeah. I can relate to that a lot. So yeah, I that all rings very true. And I think there are some things that you have to heal on your own.
Mhm.
But there are some things that can only be healed in the context of another person. Like when it comes down to receiving, there has to be another person there to give to you for you to learn how to receive, right? So for people who have found themselves in these dynamics, what are some exercises that they could potentially do to learn how to fight their natural inclination, I guess, as they are trying to exit these dynamics?
The first thing that I would say is talk openly about your struggle and ask people to support you through it, to remind you of the things that you need to be reminded of.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that you're struggling with, if you have friends, family, that partners that care about you, it's worth saying to them, for instance, with the receiving compliments or gifts or whatever, to say, I find it very difficult to receive compliments or gifts, but it doesn't mean I want to deprive you from that opportunity to gift to me.
Right.
Because it brings you joy. And I want to work on this. So please help me. Please feel free to give me random gifts or compliments. And if I resort to the first kind of like typical response that I have, like, oh, you shouldn't have, or oh, it's nothing, like it's an old shirt or something, then remind me that I need to like give you the gift of accepting it, that this is my gift to you.
That's such a good way of putting it.
Yeah. That if I want to gift you back, I just need to accept it. And to remind me that I deserve it.
Absolutely.
So that's the easiest and most cheap thing that you can do.
Excuse me. Oh my goodness.
Bless you. That would be the change that you can receive in terms of help and so forth. But again, I'm not a person of extremes. I would say that you can and you should do a lot of that work on your own. The receiving is, about self-esteem, about self-worth. This is something that you shouldn't rely on someone else to reinforce for you. And I tell my clients,
just perpetuates the pattern. Yeah,
you become reliant on that. And that's what I keep telling my clients. I want to get you to a point where someone pays you a compliment and you don't even feel the need to say thanks. Why? Because you don't say thanks to facts. It's cloudy.
I love that.
And you go, thanks.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't make sense. So I want you to be so self-assured in a good way that someone says like, you look fantastic. And you go, I know. Or you're so talented. I know.
Yeah, that's a funny one. It's my partner always tells me, he's like, the one thing, I went to school for theater. I'm a singer first and foremost. And my partner's like, you do not accept compliments well. You're not confident about most things that you do or say. He's like, but if somebody compliments you when you've sung, like if you've given a performance and you've sung, or you posted something on, he's like, and they compliment you, you will not fight them on it. You'll just respond with like, yeah, I know. He's like, why can't you do that in all other areas of your life? I'm like, I don't know, because that's like the one thing that I feel like no shame about accepting. I guess it's funny how that works. But maybe that's like the key, like one of the keys, right? Is the exercises, finding those things that you actually do feel very much like, I know, and practicing that.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with where you know your strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can reverberate out from everywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. Witnessing yourself is one of the things that a lot of people forget to do. That we are used to seeing ourselves through other people's eyes, and that's the worst that you can be reliant on, because all of the time people don't see you because they're too caught up with themselves.
Very, very true. Very, very true. So, what are some ways, if people are finding themselves stuck over and over again, what's a way to, some hints that you may actually be in one of these complementary dynamics?
Well, you're always in a complementary dynamic unless you are having a fight with someone or moving on from some kind of interaction. So
Sure.
notice what doesn't feel great. Notice some kind of pain point that you're still settling for. Like the example that I've given you earlier about couples getting together, sex is not great from the start, but they're like, yeah, it's fine. Like, you have discomfort around this thing. It's not fine. You're still settling. That is a sign that is coming from within. You're completely ignoring it and you're choosing to just suck it up. If you feel discomfort, if something is not right, if you feel like there's some kind of injustice or whatever, you're still in a complementary dynamic for as long as you choose to perpetuate and be 50% of that dynamic.
Absolutely.
As basic as that.
And it is a really powerful thing to stand up and reject the familiar and say, no more. I'm not going to do this anymore. I want to change the narrative. I want to change what I will and will not accept. I want to set boundaries. Like, that's actually a very brave thing to do, and hard, especially for people who are resistant to change. What are some ways that people can embrace that a little bit more?
Nobody's resistant to change that they see and truly embrace as desired and safe.
I'm letting that sink in. Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
In the sense that if I knocked on your door tomorrow morning, I had a suitcase full of money, life-changing money, and I said to you, there's no risk. I'm not asking anything from you. Taxman even, they're not going to come knocking on the door for that money. People wouldn't treat you differently. Your lifestyle doesn't have to change unless you want it. But you can choose to stop working if that's what you want. You can give it to charity if that's what you want. Whatever it is. Life-changing money. Here's a suitcase full of it. You wouldn't be opposed to it, would you?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Change that is,
safe and desired. But if I came tomorrow morning with that same suitcase full of money, and I said to you, this is life-changing money. I'll give it to you, but you need to sell your soul to the devil. Your friends would no longer be real friends. And Taxman is going to take 50% of it anyway. But maybe your life would be better. I'm not sure. I think it may suck a little. Maybe a lot. I don't know. But here's the suitcase full of money. Would you take it now? Exactly.
No. Yeah.
So safe and desired change is never opposed. But the problem with change is that most of the time, we don't feel sure. We feel scared. There's no safety.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of like something about life in general, is that as you're going through, nothing is really guaranteed most of the time, right? And maybe that is why there is so much, quote unquote, resistance to change or lack of embracing change fully, is because of that unknown factor. Very rarely are things like actually positively like pure.
And again, that's about where you at with dealing with uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And how resilient are you to bounce back if something knocks you down during that change? Again, it's about building yourself if you want that change. But if you feel safe, secure, if you know your value, it's a desired change, it's safe, you know your worth, you can change job tomorrow because you know that you're worth a lot more. So you go to your employers, either pay me or I'm gone. Why can you do this? Because you desire change and you feel secure. You know that you go on to find another job. It will be as easy as, I don't know, stealing an ice cream from a 2-year-old. You know?
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good thing to keep in mind, and something that I'm exploring as well. This idea that like what faith really is knowing that you hold all the tools to get through whatever life throws at you. That even if it's really hard, you've been through every day of your life and you'll probably get through the next one too. And just knowing that you have those tools to work through whatever is kind of thrown at you.
Well, not everybody has the tools, not all the time.
Right.
So
that's
part
the
of
thing.
the work is actually finding a way
Developing
to find them.
those tools.
Yeah. And develop them.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is that if you're in those patterns, a lot of the times you don't necessarily have those tools, and it does take time to establish that toolbox of things that help you with conflict, of things that help you set boundaries, of things that help you feel less resistant to change, right? It's all about that toolbox, like that toolbox of self-regulation is really what it is.
Absolutely. And again, we're not born with it. I keep saying to people, you are not born knowing how to write your name, knowing how to fry an egg, knowing how to use a computer. For everything you were taught and you invested, someone invested in your education, someone invested in you learning to walk. Come on, like someone held your hand, you fell on your face, they soothed you, you know, like loads of these experiences people just neglect as like part of life. And I'm like, no, someone made an investment in you learning to walk.
Right.
Someone made an investment in you going to school and learning how to write your name. Someone made an investment for you to use a computer, have access to one, and learn how to use it. But why are not people investing in their relationships as they are investing in their careers or their education? It's the same thing. If you don't have good education, what kind of jobs do you have access to? Therefore, if you don't have good skills like social skills, relationship skills, self skills, what kind of relationships can you get? Shit ones. No education, shit jobs. No education, shit relationships.
Yep.
Simple as that.
That's so important. That's so important. And the thing is, a lot of us don't realize that we have these issues until later in our adult lives. And so we are kind of responsible for teaching ourselves.
Absolutely. And I'll highlight something that it's an experience of mine that I'm trying to kind of use now. So when I was like a teenager, we're talking 14, 15, 16, I was the go-to person for sex and relationship advice because I grew up.
Oh, me too.
There you go. Because I grew up in that sex positive family. I had this access to resources and so forth. And people used to tell me, friends and, you know, people that knew me used to tell me, you have to become a sexologist when you grow up. And I was like, oh, nah, whatever. I became a psychologist. That's what my goal was from age 14. But ended up going down the mental health route and finding it very disheartening, and a lot of things happened. And I was like, oh, fuck this. And I realized that what people keep seeking me for is that relationship and sex advice and support and guidance and all of that. Many years after me being a 14-year-old helping my friends, you know. And I realized that these people around me had a lot more info and intel on me and how they saw me than I gave them credit for. So what I started doing in the past year or two was interviewing my friends and saying, where do you see me in 10 years' time? What am I doing? Who am I? How's my life? Knowing me right now, what do you see in my future? Because these kids and these people so many years ago was so right that this was my field, right? They saw me, external people. I was still a teenager. They were right. So what can my friends now that have known me as well for like decades tell me about my future?
It's funny because like we're the only people who know ourselves. What is that? There's that psychological idea that there's different versions of you. The version of you that you see that nobody else sees, the version of you that other people see. I'm trying to remember what the concept is.
I don't remember the name right now. It's not coming.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This idea, I'll link it in the episode notes. But this idea that there are different versions of you depending on
Who you're talking
like
to and
exactly. So, but you know, you're the only person who's going to like fully know your rich inner world, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that you can't learn from external people who know you and have a good sense of you.
Absolutely. And oftentimes we're too close to the picture. We're in the picture actually when it comes to ourselves, and we can't see from a distance. We can't see the patterns, like it's the same as being in the city. You can see the streets and you're walking down the streets. But if you zoom out and you take a drone or a Google Maps image, you see the web of the streets. You get an insight of how things are relational to you on that little street. How far is, this building or this cafe or whatever it is. And you can see your path way clearer. And I think this is what friends are for in those kind of conversations, to kind of like zoom you out and tell you, whoop, here's a picture of how your life looks like from above, from afar. This is what I'm seeing. This is your web. This is your life. And this is quite helpful because when you're in the picture, you can't see it all.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool way of looking at a really great metaphor for understanding the self. And there's lots of ways to see yourself, and it's good to look a little externally. Well, Leah, do you have any last advice for somebody who has found themselves in these patterns and is fighting to try to escape them, or who is working on, finding that self-regulation toolbox, or any of the things that we've kind of talked about today?
Sure. Well, the one thing that I would say is most of the time we can't help ourselves because, as I said earlier, you can't see it all. Even dentists go to dentists, psychologists go to psychologists. And one of the things that I've seen in my practice is people saying like, I've read all the books, I've done all the courses, I can't seem to get through this, And I'm like, yeah. Can you learn to drive a car by reading the manual and a few tips on how to, drive a car? No, you need someone there to coach you through it. So I would definitely say don't try to deal with it on your own and feel defeat after defeat. Seek help, seek professional help, seek the right type of professional that can help you with the dynamics that you want to address. I'll highlight again, I keep saying it, most mainstream therapists are not trained in sex and relationships specifically. So if your troubles are relational, you do need to find a relationship expert and work with them, because the majority of mainstream psychologists, therapists, etc., they are focused on anxiety, depression, and so forth, not so much the dynamics of relationships. So find a professional that works for you, that you are vibing with, that you trust, and work with that. And yeah, keep reading, keep discussing things with people, being honest and open, face yourself. And if you need a resource for that, I cannot recommend lifesexplicit.com enough, because this is the go-to place for sex and relationship advice and support. You can find therapists, coaches, experts in sex and in relationships that can help you. You can connect with them, find the right one for you to work with, but also engage in whatever content they may have on different topics. They may have courses, ebooks, whatever. It's all going to be on Life's Explicit, you can have a look and find what works for you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Leah, for coming on here and talking to me about this topic that is near and dear to my heart as I'm working through it in many ways as well. Thank you for all of the wisdom that you had to share, all of the advice. I know that my listeners are going to take away some important messages here as well. Other than that, though, you've been listening to Wine, Dine, and 69. I am your host, Rachel Dalton. Let's keep learning and let's keep talking.